Alright, so the kicker's all put back together after epoxying the coil. Just testing it out, let the glue sit overnight. You can see I used panel bond, which is what we use to bond quarter panels to the inner structure, and I mean we use panel bonder for a number of different things. I resoldered the terminals back on all the way around, but yes, it's not the prettiest and the cleanest, but you know what, when this stuff dries, it dries rock hard and pretty much nothing can break it loose. And I use the same stuff up around the surround. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the results. I also used it to remount the trim ring here, but there is no longer any type of rattle, which I am very happy about. If you hear any rattle at all, it's just my tools and my box vibrating. But no, it actually, it came out pretty freaking good. I'm very pleased with the results that I've gotten. And a lot of people say that you can't, like, once you take a speaker apart, that you have to recone it, that you can't reuse anything. I'm here to tell you that is false, because this has to be, I don't know, the second, maybe third time that I've completely disassembled a subwoofer, fixed a internal issue with the subwoofer, and successfully put it back together without a whole lot of issues or complications. Sorry, just looking for something kind of, bassy. Not really too fond of Eminem anymore. I actually almost threw this CD away the other day because I don't listen to him anymore. But you know what? He's got some bass songs, so give it a shot. Now, keep in mind, there's not a whole lot of watts running through the speaker right now. I mean, even at this low volume, when I had it hooked up, you'd hear the voice coil rattling like crazy. And fortunately, I don't hear any rattle at all. So there you have it. I successfully took the speaker completely apart. Didn't rip anything. And epoxied the coil to keep it back together, to keep it, from rattling and moving. Since the coil wasn't actually blown, that's the thing. The coil wasn't blown because it was still reading the right resistance. And, that's what made me think that it was something stupid. I mean, it could have been something that got inside of the motor assembly and it was just scraping the coil, which is what I thought it might have been. Maybe a piece of glue that came off the speaker or something like that. But it was a loose rattle. Now, I've read a lot of forums. I tried looking on some YouTube a little bit. Couldn't really find much on YouTube, but I found a ton of forums for these kickers, the Kicker L7s, the Kicker CVRs. These are the CVXs. Tons and tons of articles about people claiming a rattle noise from their speaker and how can they fix it. And everybody in the forums is saying, oh, well, it's not worth fixing, so you are better off just going and buying another speaker. Which these speakers are, a little over $300 from what I saw on Amazon, like $339 or something like that. Pretty much everybody was saying they're not worth reconing, they're not worth doing much to them other than throwing them away and getting a new one. That's wrong. If you do what I did and you keep your patience. I mean, I didn't even have to take any of this apart and shim the coil because I reused all my old marks and linings to line everything up. Best way to do it sometimes is if you take like a pick and you go around your edge with your surround and you go around your edge with your spider here. And you take a pick and you scrape the metal. This way when you go to put it back together, everything will go back in line the way it's supposed to go. You can line everything up. You don't need a ton of glue. In these type of scenarios, less is more. You use too much glue, you run the risk of it, possibly breaking apart and falling into your coil, and then you end up with this problem all over again. You use a bare minimum amount. Use enough to make it stick, but not so much that it's just like overflowing like crazy out of all the crevices and orifices. But yeah, I mean, the repair is completely doable. If this is the type of problem you're having where you're getting a rattle and you're pushing on the cone, but you hear nothing, but as soon as you hook it up, you hear a rattle, check your coils. Make sure they're reading the proper impedance, whether it's 4 ohm or 2 ohm. Don't check your coils when they're all hooked up together, though. You got to check them separately. So you got to check your positive and negative on one coil, your positive, negative on another coil. And if you're reading 4 ohms and you're not hearing any noise and the speaker's not like stiffened up like it's seized, then you're probably in good shape. I wouldn't play it anymore because then you could probably, do some damage. But, do like what I did. Take a flathead screwdriver, pry up this trim ring, and just, slowly work it. Don't try to just, rip it right off because then you're going to crack it, you're going to break it, and when it's time to go glue this thing back together, you're not going to have the fancy trim ring, and you're also not going to have the support that the surround needs to, keep it in place while it's playing. So once you do that and you get your surround, you take, I used just a flathead screwdriver, and once this was off, I just pried around, and I kept doing it all the way around until it was completely loose. Then I came down here. I actually did find that pick. I ended up using it on another job. But like I said before, it's a 90-degree angle pick. And I went down inside here. Now, this isn't going to work because I used panel bond. This stuff is not going to come off with just a pick. So, I'll show you on this one. This is the factory on this speaker. That's the one I repaired. This is the one that's still good from the factory. But I just kind of like dug in here. I dug in, and once I dug in, I went sideways, and I just kind of kept working my way around. So you're taking that 90 degree, and you're just working your way all the way around the spider. Once you get the spider loose, you can desolder these if you want. I ended up just cutting it because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to salvage the speaker or not, and I figured if I didn't, what's cutting it going to hurt? So that's why, like, when I cut mine, I just resoldered them back to the terminal. But I cut these or that, or find a way to get this glue off and unscrew it, however you want to do it. And then the whole cone assembly will come out. Now, I showed you in the previous video, you know, what everything looked like while it was out. So, and I showed how the coil was loose in that one section, but I went and epoxied around the entire coil. Once again, the epoxy is non-conductive. You don't have to worry about short-circuiting anything. It's going to be perfectly fine. These speakers are rated at 1,000 watts RMS, 2,000 watts peak. And as long as you keep it within that 1,000 watts of clean power, not distorted Chinese power, you should be fine about the epoxy. I mean, once the coil starts warming up, you might get like a little bit of a funky smell, but if anything, it should just help the epoxy blend and sink into the coil a little better. If you start pumping this thing full of distortion and clipping, and you start heating the coil up, I mean, that's what blows speakers. I've seen speakers that can only handle 500 watts RMS, so they claim, from the factory, being pushed on a 1,000 watt amplifier, but the 1,000 watt amplifier is also a very good grade amp. So as long as you're sending clean, undistorted power, your speakers should be fine, epoxy or not. I'm thinking the guy that I got these speakers from probably clipped the crap out of them, which caused this one to malfunction. He said he had them hooked up to a old school Zapco amplifier, and I don't know, old school Zapco was pretty good, but I've never personally used it, so I don't know what their story is as far as quality and everything. I've heard that they've been really good cheater amps back in the day, but anyway, so that's my little video on repairing the kicker voice coil rattle. Hopefully this helps everybody else out. Take it easy.